When we talk about supplements like magnesium, vitamin D3, and K2, most people immediately assume they're safe because they're labeled as natural or essential. But what if I told you that taking them without understanding how they work in the body could actually do more harm than good, especially for seniors? This isn't just about dosage, it's about biology, timing, and interaction. It's about understanding that your body is not a passive container. It's a finely tuned system of chemical messaging, neural feedback, and hormonal balance. Each pill you take sends a signal, and when that signal is sent at the wrong time, in the wrong environment, or without the correct supporting nutrients, you may be doing the opposite of what you intended. Let's start with magnesium. It's known for its calming effect. It helps regulate neurotransmitters like GABA, which reduce neural excitability and help promote relaxation and sleep. That's why it's often recommended to those dealing with anxiety, insomnia, or muscle cramps. But here's the problem. Magnesium doesn't work in isolation. If you're low in cofactors like vitamin B6 or potassium, magnesium can actually create more imbalance. Why? Because magnesium pulls on electrolyte channels. If those channels are already unstable, supplementing blindly may cause fatigue, dizziness, or even heart palpitations. And there's another layer. Not all forms of magnesium are created equal. Magnesium glycinate supports sleep and calm. Magnesium citrate leans toward laxative effects. Magnesium threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier and supports cognitive function. So the question isn't, am I taking magnesium? The question is, why am I taking it? Now let's talk about vitamin D3. Most people don't realize this, but D3 is not just a vitamin. It behaves more like a hormone. Once ingested, it's converted by the liver and kidneys into a form that binds to receptors on nearly every cell in the body. It influences gene expression. That means D3 can actually switch on or off hundreds of processes related to immunity, inflammation, and even emotional regulation. But here's where things go wrong. When seniors take D3 without knowing their current blood levels or without co-supplementing with magnesium and vitamin K2, the result can be dangerous. Why? Because D3 increases calcium absorption, and if you don't have K2 to shuttle that calcium into your bones, it could end up in your arteries, joints, or kidneys instead. This isn't fear-mongering, it's physiology. Seniors are already at higher risk of vascular calcification, so taking high-dose D3 without balance may accelerate aging at the cellular and systemic level. K2 is often ignored or underestimated, but this vitamin is critical for directing calcium where it belongs. Think of K2 as the traffic director. D3 opens the floodgates of calcium absorption, but K2 tells that calcium, go to the bones, not the arteries. And just like magnesium, K2 comes in different forms. MK4 and MK7. MK7 stays in circulation longer, making it more effective for long-term cardiovascular protection. But it only works if taken consistently and in harmony with D3 and dietary fat for absorption. Many people take D3 in the morning, magnesium at night, and K2 whenever they remember, but biology doesn't reward randomness. The body thrives on precision. So here's the truth. Supplements can change your life for the better or the worse. The difference comes down to knowledge. Instead of reacting to a symptom like muscle cramps or low energy, ask what the symptom is trying to tell you. Test your levels, learn the interactions. Treat supplementation not as a shortcut, but as a science. When done right, it can extend your health span, sharpen your mind, and protect your heart. But when done wrong, it can silently unravel the very systems you're trying to support. When seniors reach for supplements like magnesium, vitamin D3, and K2, the intent is almost always good. You're aiming to support your bones, your heart, your mood, or your sleep. But here's the hard truth. Just because something is labeled as a vitamin or mineral doesn't mean it's harmless. These are powerful biochemical agents, not just nutritional gaps you're filling. Each one interacts with your central nervous system, your metabolic pathways, and your hormonal feedback loop. The body doesn't compartmentalize nutrients. Instead, it integrates them into systems, interconnected webs, where one change creates ripple effects everywhere. That's why blindly taking magnesium, D3, or K2 without context can backfire. Magnesium, for example, is often prescribed as a sleep aid or a remedy for muscle cramps, but in reality, magnesium plays a role in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body, many of them tied to nerve transmission, DNA repair, and muscular control. So when someone says, I take magnesium for calm, they're only addressing a narrow slice of what this mineral is actually doing. Magnesium regulates NMDA receptors in the brain, helping to prevent excessive neural excitation. But what happens when you supplement magnesium and your potassium levels are already depleted? You disrupt the electrochemical gradient of your cells. That's not just theory, that's something seniors often feel in real time. More fatigue, irregular heart rhythms, or even worsened insomnia. Magnesium only brings calm when the full spectrum of your mineral balance supports it. Another key issue with magnesium is the form you take. Different types have very different bioavailability and effects. Magnesium oxide, for example, is poorly absorbed and mostly passes through the digestive system. Magnesium citrate acts as a laxative, while glycinate supports relaxation and muscle function without digestive disruption. Magnesium threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier and may support cognitive resilience, particularly important for aging populations concerned about memory and mental clarity. So, when you reach for magnesium, the real question should be, which kind, how much, and why now? Let's move to vitamin D3, one of the most misunderstood and misused nutrients in modern health. What most people don't realize is that D3 is not just a nutrient, it functions like a hormone. Once inside the body, it's converted into a compound that directly influences gene expression. This affects everything from immune resilience to inflammation to how your body metabolizes calcium. That's where it gets dangerous. When you take D3, you're enhancing your body's ability to absorb calcium from food. But calcium in excess or in the wrong location can be a silent killer. If calcium accumulates in your arteries instead of your bones, it accelerates arterial stiffness, a precursor to high blood pressure, stroke, and heart disease. Here's where K2 becomes critical, but it's often missing from the conversation entirely. K2's role is to activate proteins that move calcium into your skeletal system and keep it out of soft tissues. Without K2, that D3-induced calcium has nowhere to go. It gets stuck, it settles in the wrong places, and the long-term outcome is calcification, not rejuvenation. That's why pairing D3 with K2 is not optional, it's foundational. And just like the others, K2 isn't one size fits all. MK4 and MK7 are the two most studied forms. MK7 stays in your system longer, giving it a better opportunity to redirect calcium properly. But absorption is fat dependent, so taking it on an empty stomach or with coffee defeats the purpose. Timing matters, context matters, your physiology matters. It's not about loading up your cabinet with pills. It's about syncing supplementation with your biology, your needs, your rhythms, and your lab values. What we're learning through neuroscience and functional medicine is that the body is highly sensitive to timing, dosage, and environment. Supplements are powerful levers, but like any lever, they need to be pulled with precision. When used correctly, magnesium, D3, and K2 can transform aging, boosting strength, mental clarity, and vascular health. But if misused, they can do the opposite. That's the warning, not to avoid them, but to respect them. There's a reason magnesium, vitamin D3, and K2 have become such popular supplements, especially among seniors. They're linked to stronger bones, calmer minds, better sleep, and longer lives. But what's not being talked about enough is the risk of taking these supplements without a deeper understanding of how they function inside the body. These aren't casual nutrients. They're biologically active compounds that directly influence your nervous system, cardiovascular system, and cellular aging process. Taking them without context, testing, or understanding the right combinations may unknowingly push your body toward imbalance, not health. Let's focus first on what happens when magnesium enters the picture. Magnesium doesn't just relax your muscles, it regulates neurotransmitter activity, affects synaptic plasticity, and plays a key role in ATP production, your cell's energy currency. If you're low on magnesium, your cells are essentially energy starved, and your brain becomes less adaptable. But here's the twist. Your body needs magnesium in harmony with other nutrients like calcium, potassium, and sodium. These elements operate in a delicate ratio. When magnesium levels rise artificially through supplementation, but potassium remains low, a common occurrence in seniors, the electrical balance in cells can go haywire. This may explain why some people experience irregular heartbeats, dizziness, or fatigue after taking magnesium. Additionally, seniors need to be more specific about which type of magnesium they're using. Magnesium oxide, the cheapest and most commonly available form, has a low absorption rate and is better suited for short-term constipation than cellular restoration. Magnesium glycinate, on the other hand, is bound to glycine, a calming amino acid, and is more effective for sleep and anxiety. Meanwhile, magnesium threonate has been shown to cross the blood-brain barrier and influence brain plasticity and memory, making it especially valuable for age cognitive decline. But without knowing what type you need and why, you're taking a shot in the dark, and that's not the strategy your aging body deserves. Now let's examine vitamin D3, another supplement that has surged in popularity, especially after research connected it to immune resilience, emotional stability, and stronger bones. But D3 is not a typical vitamin, it's a hormone precursor. When you take D3, it undergoes conversion in your liver and kidneys and begins regulating genes involved in calcium metabolism, inflammation control, and even serotonin production. Taking it without proper evaluation of your current D3 status can be risky. Many seniors, fearing deficiency, take high doses daily. But more is not always better. When D3 levels are too high, it increases calcium absorption beyond what the body can safely handle. And that's where vitamin K2 plays a vital role. K2 activates a set of proteins, particularly osteocalcin and matrix clay protein, that move calcium into the bones and keep it away from arteries, kidneys, and joints. Without K2, D3 is like an open faucet with no drainage system. You may absorb more calcium, but it can end up in places it was never meant to be, silently contributing to arterial stiffness, joint pain, or kidney stones. This is not a rare situation. In fact, vascular calcification is a widespread age issue that's often misunderstood. It doesn't show symptoms until it's advanced, and that's why prevention matters. Many make the mistake of thinking K2 is optional, a sidekick to D3, but it's absolutely essential. And just like magnesium and D3, the form and timing of K2 matter deeply. MK7 is generally more effective than MK4 because it remains in the bloodstream longer, providing ongoing calcium direction. But for it to work properly, it must be taken with fat, preferably a meal with healthy oils or omega-3s. Taking K2 in isolation on an empty stomach or at the wrong time of day can reduce its effectiveness dramatically. So what's the takeaway here? You're not just popping vitamins, you're sending molecular instructions to your body. These instructions must be clear, complete, and in the right sequence. If not, your good intentions may lead to poor results. Seniors have less room for error as metabolic flexibility and nutrient storage capacities decline with age. You need to supplement with precision, not hope. When done right, this trio, magnesium, D3, and K2, can optimize your energy, protect your heart, preserve your brain, and strengthen your bones. But when done wrong, it can quietly sabotage the very health you're trying to protect. There's a growing trend among seniors to supplement with magnesium, vitamin D3, and K2. And for good reason. These nutrients are powerful tools for bone strength, cardiovascular health, cognitive clarity, and better sleep. But there's an uncomfortable truth not often discussed. If you're taking these supplements without a full understanding of how they interact with each other and your body, you might be triggering a silent cascade of imbalance. Supplements are not passive ingredients, they are biochemical signals. Each one affects not only a targeted system, but creates ripples across hormonal pathways, cellular behavior, and even your neural function. For seniors whose systems are already more sensitive and less adaptive, precision isn't just a luxury, it's essential. Let's begin with magnesium, one of the most common mineral deficiencies in older adults. It's essential for neuromuscular conduction, mitochondrial energy production, and stress regulation. It acts like a gatekeeper in your nervous system, controlling the balance between relaxation and over-excitation. But it doesn't act alone. Magnesium works in tandem with calcium and potassium to maintain the electrical stability of cells. When this balance is thrown off, say by supplementing with high-dose magnesium without correcting a potassium or sodium deficiency, people often report increased fatigue, muscle weakness, or even irregular heartbeats. The problem isn't the magnesium itself, but the lack of context. Even more, not all magnesium is created equal. Seniors need to select the right form based on their specific concerns. Glycinate for sleep and anxiety, threonate for cognitive performance, malate for fatigue and muscle pain, and citrate if constipation is the issue. Knowing the type, timing, and nutritional state of your body is non-negotiable. This isn't about randomly adding a pill at night. It's about targeted evidence-based support tailored to the unique rhythms and deficiencies of aging physiology. Now let's move into the misunderstood world of vitamin D3. Often promoted as the sunshine vitamin, D3 is technically a hormone precursor. Once metabolized in your body, it influences over 1,000 genes involved in immunity, mood, inflammation, and, most critically, calcium absorption. For seniors who are often vitamin D deficient, supplementation sounds like the obvious solution, but here's the risk. When you take D3, your body increases the amount of calcium it pulls from the foods you eat. That calcium doesn't automatically go to your bones. If your system lacks the necessary cofactors, it can end up in soft tissues, your arteries, kidneys, even your joints. This leads to arterial calcification, a silent process that hardens blood vessels and elevates the risk for heart disease and stroke. And that brings us to vitamin K2, the overlooked partner in this trio. K2's role is to activate proteins that guide calcium into bones and out of arteries. Specifically, it activates osteocalcin, which helps bind calcium to your bone matrix and matrix, glyprotein, which prevents calcium from sticking to artery walls. Without sufficient K2, all the D3 in the world won't protect you. In fact, it could slowly work against you. And this is particularly dangerous for seniors because vascular calcification typically shows no symptoms until the damage is advanced and irreversible. But even when K2 is included, there's another layer of complexity. Which form are you taking? MK4 or MK7? MK7 has a longer half-life in the body and is more effective at maintaining consistent levels, particularly beneficial for long-term cardiovascular support. And how are you taking it? K2 is fat soluble, which means it needs dietary fat to be absorbed effectively. Taking it with coffee or water on an empty stomach significantly diminishes its impact. Timing matters, absorption matters, your biological environment matters. Taking supplements without this level of insight is like trying to operate a complex machine blindfolded. You might press the right button, but at the wrong time with the wrong tool in the wrong sequence. The result, your intention for health becomes a stressor instead. This is why so many people don't feel better even after weeks or months of consistent supplementation. It's not about frequency, it's about alignment. When magnesium, D3, and K2 are introduced into the body with full respect for the body's current state, deficiencies, and circadian rhythms, they become catalysts for healing. But used casually, they can contribute to silent degeneration that escapes immediate notice until it's too late. The growing popularity of magnesium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2 supplements among seniors is not without reason. These nutrients are undeniably crucial for a range of bodily functions, from improving sleep and mood to protecting bones and arteries. But here's what most people don't understand. When you take these supplements without knowledge of how they work together, or worse, in isolation, you could be doing more harm than good. The body is a tightly regulated system. Each nutrient has a role, but also a dependency on other nutrients and biological factors. Seniors in particular need to be cautious. As the body ages, its ability to regulate nutrient absorption, balance, and elimination becomes more delicate. Supplementation should be a science, not a guess. Take magnesium, for instance. Known for its role in relaxing muscles and nerves, magnesium also supports over 300 enzyme systems. It's essential for DNA repair, ATP production, and stabilizing the nervous system. But many don't realize magnesium is deeply intertwined with potassium and sodium. The three work like a team to keep your heart rhythm stable, muscles functioning, and cells communicating. If you supplement magnesium but your potassium is low, you may not feel calm or energized. You might feel the opposite, sluggish, dizzy, or even experience arrhythmia. That's not the magnesium failing, it's your body sending a signal that you're missing the other puzzle pieces. Even more, magnesium needs to be matched with the right form. Some types, like magnesium oxide, are cheap but poorly absorbed. Others, like magnesium citrate, may cause gastrointestinal distress. But forms like glycinate and threonate are more targeted. Glycinate supports relaxation and sleep, while threonate may support cognitive function by entering the brain. The real insight here is that no one form fits all. Seniors experiencing insomnia don't need the same type of magnesium as someone with joint pain or cognitive decline. Knowing which form to use is just as important as knowing whether you need it at all. Then comes vitamin D3, often described as the sunshine vitamin. It's commonly recommended for immune support and bone health, especially in older adults. But what most people don't understand is that vitamin D3 is not a traditional vitamin. It acts as a steroid hormone in the body, regulating hundreds of genes. One of its key functions is increasing calcium absorption in the gut. That's beneficial only if your body can properly use that calcium. Otherwise, the excess calcium has to go somewhere. And if it ends up in soft tissues like arteries or kidneys, it creates a slow-building silent threat. Seniors who take high doses of D3 without balancing cofactors like magnesium and K2 may unknowingly promote calcification, leading to long-term complications. This brings us to vitamin K2, the unsung hero of calcium management. K2 is essential for activating proteins that direct calcium to where it belongs, your bones and teeth. At the same time, it prevents calcium from depositing in places where it can be harmful, such as arteries and joints. Without sufficient K2, the calcium absorbed due to vitamin D3 supplementation can contribute to arterial stiffness and elevate cardiovascular risk. And yet, K2 is rarely mentioned in standard supplement conversations. It's a vital partner in the D3 equation. Without it, you're operating a system without a brake. Not only is the presence of K2 important, but so is the type. MK7 is more effective for long-term cardiovascular health due to its longer half-life, while MK4 acts faster but is cleared from the body quickly. Seniors should aim for consistent intake of MK7 for steady calcium regulation. And let's not forget K2 is a fat-soluble vitamin. That means you need dietary fat with it for absorption. A supplement taken with water on an empty stomach won't deliver results. Absorption matters as much as dosage. Ultimately, the core message here is about synergy and sequence. Magnesium supports D3's activation, D3 enhances calcium absorption, K2 ensures that calcium is deposited safely. Remove or ignore any one part of this chain and the balance falls apart. Seniors need to stop thinking of supplements as isolated fixes and start understanding them as interacting systems. Test your nutrient levels, understand your needs, match form with function. Only then do these powerful nutrients fulfill their promise, not just to extend life, but to enhance the quality of it.